Bow before your lord.
3, 2, 1, fight!
You don't like me? Oh, I'm... Yeah. This is gonna hurt. Weak. Yeah.
Guess who's back?
Megazord!
Zero in on my coordinates. 5. Out of my way. Die! Out of my way.
You're not supposed to be.
It's more of a time. Sabotage Tiger.
Powered up! Megazord!
Out of my way. Yeah, that's what I thought.
So you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, it's the Dapper Dino here. I'm here with, of course, Maddie from Science Side Up, who's coming to us today from an interdimensional time warp. So say hello, Maddie.
Hi, whoa, what is this weird blue space that I'm in? That's how I can talk to you across time and space. Hi, everybody, I'm Maddie. You can find me on the internet at Science Side Up. I talk about science. It's good stuff.
You're not normally in an energy
sober.
tube.
Yeah. I'm upsettingly sober for Matt with Maddie.
Yeah, that's rough.
It's gonna be all right. We're gonna get through it together. There's emotional support Batman. You can't see him in the time warp, but it's fine. He's behind me if I need him. Like Batman's always been there for me.
Unlike his parents, who were never there for him. Oh.
Ooh, just coming out of the gate, swinging.
Wow, Robert
taking those Batman blows.
Robert Adsit left the Wingnut Roundup for this. That's some dedication.
I'm honored.
Thank you.
That is some dedication.
Yeah.
Thank you. It makes this time warp worth it.
I mean, for one thing, Jeff Holiday has way better production value than I do. You guys are getting a crappy CGI command center. He's got urine waterfall transitions. I don't have any of that. So, anyway, we are here because, well, first we're doing Matt with Maddie. We did sort of a sneak, like, backdoor pilot thing a while back on, well, not that long ago, but on Kent with Bent, where we had Maddie on because Matt was there and he mentioned her new PhD that she didn't know about.
Yeah.
So, congratulations again.
Can he write a letter to my committee?
Right.
That would be great.
Then, we realized that, Matt with Maddie might actually be a fun series. So this is our first one. This is Matt Powell giving, I think, a sermon. So he's at a church. I don't really know exactly what criteria differentiate just a talk from a sermon?
Oh, it's whether or not a man's giving it.
Oh, is that the actual difference? Because that doesn't sound right. At least not in all of the churches.
It
Okay.
is. So actually for reals, in any church that like doesn't let women preach, right? And anybody that follows that rule.
Okay.
So if it's a Sunday morning and a guy is doing it, then it's a sermon. If it's a Sunday, actually, period, if it's a Sunday morning, it's a sermon. So women definitely can't speak in front of the church on a Sunday morning.
Okay.
That's not allowed. And it is going to be like in the like whatever their church's like sanctuary is. You could go talk at the same time to the same people in a classroom, like one room over, and that would be okay.
Okay.
Because that would be teaching but not preaching.
So in this case, the important thing is probably, is this a Sunday morning or not? And I'm suspecting it's not.
Okay.
And I just say that on the basis of almost nothing, except that I know that Matt goes around and gives like little like talks at churches that aren't part of their regularly scheduled worship service thing.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So it might be a Sunday evening or a Wednesday evening. And those are two times when it's a little more wiggly if the human with a uterus can speak.
yeah. I mean, on Sunday, I imagine that if you have a uterus, your vocal cords just kind of shut off. Is that what happens?
Absolutely. Like
Okay.
you can sing, that's acceptable.
Oh, but you have to be like very carefully controlling the pitch of your voice, or it just goes all over the correct place.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I could sing a sermon.
It'd be a very long song. But anyway,
It'd be very long.
Matt here is going to tell us what atheists really believe. And I haven't watched all of this, but I have watched enough to know that he's going to conflate basically anyone who isn't a pseudoscientific moron with an atheist. So that's the definition that I'm going to basically be using. He's not telling us what atheists believe, because he doesn't seem to know what an atheist is. He's going to be telling us what basically non-young Earth creationists believe. And we're going to take a look at how right that is. And, yeah. But we do have some drinking rules, which apparently Maddie's not even thought. No, it's fine.
I have this.
Okay. So, we're going to take a drink whenever Matt says something that's so stupid we kind of have to, which is going to be dangerous because Matt Powell he's extremely prone to say extremely stupid things. We have whenever he tells a joke that doesn't land. If one of us can predict his next upcoming argument, and we call it out as like a prediction, and the prediction comes true, we'll take a drink. Also, occasionally, Godzilla, Mothra, or even Ghidorah will come by. Now, usually that's my phone. However, channel members do have access to those emojis, and so if you do a super chat with one of those, that is going to be a drink trigger right there. If you're interested in doing that, joining the channel is $1.99 a month at the bottom level, and that will get you all the emojis, as well as you can message me for a link to the exclusive Discord server that's only for channel supporters. So that's where it's easiest to reach me, basically. I always check it. I'm not always actively there, but I am there usually several hours a day actively looking at it, and if people talk, I will actually have like a response time in like the seconds, not the minutes. So, a good place to reach me. Oh, hey, 2HD Cat, I think this is your first live stream. 2AHD has been like binging all of my videos and commenting on all of them, which I appreciate.
Oh, nice.
So, I think we pretty much covered it. Oh, we also have conversations that didn't really happen, but that the person talking says happened. But that's not much of a Matt Powell thing. He only does that occasionally. He doesn't.
Well, so, but he doesn't do like, hey, this one time I was sitting on a plane. But he does it even more abstractly. It'll be like, and they say, but then it'll be something incredibly specific.
Right.
That's like.
We might take a drink for that. It'll depend on how we feel.
Yeah, it's a strange rhetoric choice on his part.
All right. Well, I think that's us set for the rules, and we're just gonna see what Matt has in store for us.
Okay, but before you press play, I need you. Okay. I know this isn't the right command center for this, but I feel like we need to have our like Klingon battle cry going into this. So like. Because today is a good day to die, right? And that's the energy I need you to bring. Okay. Well, today we're going to deal with Matt Powell.
Today is a good day to die in Klingon is
Cock. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. For 50 Argentinian pesos, Tiktaalik asks, is this Maddie from Science Side Up or Zordon from Power Rangers? Of course, the answer is yes. Yes. All right, here we go.
Too much pink energy is bad.
Dangerous.
Dangerous. Too much pink energy is dangerous.
Almost. You almost had it.
I almost had it.
Amen. Well, it's good to be here tonight. Just want to say thanks to Pastor Thompson and the family of Christ that's out here that's willing to have me out. I know I'm a young guy, but I really enjoy preaching. I enjoy just speaking the Word of God to people and telling it like it is. And I'm afraid that in our country today, there's a lot of people who just don't want to tell it like it is, and I don't think we should fear those around us. And so let's go ahead and focus on verse 3 of our text, where the Bible says, knowing this first, there shall come in the last days, notice this word, scoffers, walking after their own lusts and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. Where is your Jesus, they say. All right. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water. So the Bible's saying here that they're willingly ignorant of one fact, and that's the flood. They're also obviously willingly ignorant in verse.
Is that what that says?
I don't have a dog in that fight, but if you have an alternate interpretation, I would love for you to give it. And also, someone said, shut up, baby, but no, that baby feels me right now. I feel like that baby. I'm just a little bit too old to make that noise.
Right, like if it was socially acceptable for me to cry every time Matt Powell spoke, like I might do that.
Right.
Well, like one of my like, there's so many layers to the Matt Powell's beliefs, right? It's just a crazy onion. You know what I mean? By which I mean every layer is crazier than the one above it, right? So like we find the surface layer stuff, which is like, I think the Earth is only 6,000 years old, and we're like, okay, bold choice, right?
Yeah.
Like, but then we dig down deeper, and like it's not just that like, oh, my theology is completely dependent on this, but it's because that is, and I need the Bible to be, every word of the Bible to be literally true, and in English to be literally true. But then you find out he's a King James onlyist, right? So not only does he need every word of the Bible in English to be literally true, he needs every word of the Bible as it was translated, poorly translated in the 1600s, and that we're reading today, that has to be literally true, right? But I mean, like, I don't really have a dog in this fight, but that's like this, I don't even know where that verse is coming from, but it just says that like the earth stood like of and apart from the waters or something like that. Like my first pass is like, well, okay, so waters though are a recurring theme in the Old Testament, right? It shows up in the creation story. It's one way to translate, like in the beginning, God created blah, blah, blah. A better translation of that is something like when God began to create, the Spirit of the Lord hovered over the dark waters. And there's this idea that creation is like pulling things out of this like dark water chaosness. And then you have like, look, Noah's flood. There's another time where water plays a role in both like creation and destruction. That comes up again when like Moses leads the Israelites out of Egypt and we separate the waters, and then everybody behind them drowns. Like, so like the crossing of the Red Sea, it comes again when the Israelites cross the Jordan and go into, the like promised land. So like this idea of like land surrounded by water, right? Or coming out of water is a reoccurring biblical motif. And I would need to see like the biblical scholarship, or the theological scholarship on whatever he's saying here. Anyway, that's just like when you start to peel back the crazy onion here, like you're finding that like not only is what he says not rooted in science, which is mostly what we're here to talk about, but it's also not rooted theologically. It's incredibly shallow theologically, and so it's just there's no like point where it's solid, right? There's no point where like, oh, okay, this is the belief that's like deeply rooted and deep, right? Like, no, it's everything is just shallow and surface level, and it's just like regurgitating things that were said to him is what it appears like to me, It doesn't like there's not original thought here, because like sorry, we started onto a sermon, and my gut is,
It's already bad on a theological standpoint, huh?
Right. And I remember being like, I mean, I was a very annoying 12-year-old in church because I would be like, but why does it mean that? You know, and luckily my parents were indulgent of my many questions and gave me a lot of books to read.
Nice.
And like, so I'm used to be able to ask I'm used to expecting like, but why does it say that? I expect that in sermons, and he like never delivers that. And it's another part of his like presentations that bother me.
Okay. All right. Oh, was that a drink? We're doing a drink for Matt Powell being stupid?
Sorry, I was just thirsty.
Oh, that's fine. Oh.
Verse 4 of the creation and of Jesus, they say, well, where is the promise of his coming? You know, it's just amazing to me how somebody can be so irrational and so illogical. And notice how it says they're scoffers. And so I want to go ahead. The Bible says the Lord will mock them. So here's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to take a look at what atheists believe, and I'm going to prove to you tonight that what they believe is not anything different from any other false religion in the world.
Okay, first, I just want to point out that when Matt Powell says atheist, he's including people like Maddie or Beethoven, who are in fact Christians, who just have a different view on things like what certain bits of scripture say, sorry, and how their religion interacts with science and other things outside of their religion. So we're going to be taking his atheists and interpreting it very loosely.
Well, and also, like, what he just said was that what an atheist believes, right, is the same as any other false religion. So he's making a few claims there. One is that any religion that isn't Christianity believes the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, please put, I don't know, a Hindu, a Norse pagan, and like a Muslim into a room together and see how much they agree on, right?
It's not going to be nothing, but it's going to be very little.
It's going to be very little. And then also toss an atheist in that room, right? And none of them are going to have the identical beliefs. So like, this is his rhetoric, right? So also, like, sometimes I can't parse out what he's trying to say in a sentence.
He's very confused
what happened
sometimes.
In the sentence before this, which was like, and they say, like, where is the promise of Jesus? And so, folks, notice that the verse there says scoffs, and I'm like, I have whiplash from your train of thought. Like,
yeah, it's very confusing.
It's very confusing, and I don't like it.
Well, let's hear him strawman. Oh, sorry.
I'm feeling really sassy tonight.
Okay, that's kind of the point.
So that's the energy I'm bringing to
this. That's nice.
They believe the same thing that any other false religion believes. They say, well, if there is a God, you know, he'll let me into heaven because, you know, it's based on my works and I lead a good life. I've never done anything that's deserving of hellfire, although they've broken pretty much all the 10 commandments and they couldn't even tell you what one of the commandments are.
I mean, there are religions that don't even believe in heaven, but do believe in an afterlife. I'm going to take a drink for Matt, assuming that everyone thinks the same way about if there is a God, then I know what's going to happen in the afterlife.
Mm-hmm. So he's also making the assumption that, like, everyone, in fact, believes in heaven and hell, right? Well, in the same way that he does.
He did start with if there's a God, so I'm not sure he's necessarily going quite that far in the claim.
Okay,
but then again,
if there's a God, then they'll let me into heaven.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he is assuming that people think that if there's a God, then it then follows that there's a heaven and a hell, which is not an accurate statement. There are people who do believe in God, but not in a heaven or hell.
Right, and it's also the assumption that if there is a God, then that God is his version of God. Right. You know, I won't even say the Judeo-Christian God, you know, because
some kind of vaguely monotheistic nice guy.
Yeah. That's clearly, it's either you don't believe in God or you believe in specifically that one. And that's not real life.
Nope. Turns out that there are essentially an indefinite number of God concepts that you could believe in.
Yeah. And also, especially in the States, with the prevalence of the 10 Commandments on like public buildings, I bet most Americans, regardless of faith tradition, could name a solid half of the 10 Commandments.
It's probably true.
And my favorite thing to bring up is that which of the 10, because aren't the 10 Commandments written like 3 different times and it's 3 different, slightly different versions?
It's at least twice, but it might be 3 times. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like when you say the 10 Commandments, there's like the 10 that we kind of, there's a common parlance. We kind of know what that refers to.
Yeah, the stereotypical version.
The stereotypical version. But anyway.
All right.
You know, oh, if there is a God, he'd let me in. Well, does the Bible say that? They say, oh, well, your God's the spaghetti monster. Does somebody want to show me a spaghetti monster in this text?
Okay, well, I'm going to drink for that obvious straw man.
Mm-hmm.
The point of the spaghetti monster rhetoric, which, by the way, I'm not a huge fan of. I don't actually think it's a particularly good critique. But the point is not to say that you literally believe in the spaghetti monster, Matt. The idea is to say, okay, I have come up with a God concept that you find ridiculous in the same way that I find your God concept ridiculous. Now, argue in a way to disprove my God concept that can't then be turned around and used on yours. Like I said, I don't actually think it works very well, because I actually do think you can come up with pretty good arguments against the spaghetti monster that don't work on a Judeo-Christian concept of God. But that is the point. And by Matt is strong manning.
It's exactly. It's an intentional parody. That's it's. I guess it's a satire might be the better one, because it's trying to point out the spaghetti monster is trying to point out flaws in many like apologetic arguments for the existence of the Judeo-Christian God.
Yeah.
But so no one expects there to be a spaghetti monster in the Bible. I don't know.
Yeah, no one is making that argument. I guess I can't say no one, but I've never heard of anyone making the argument that you should be able to find the spaghetti monster in the Bible.
Right.
It's just a ridiculous idea that's what people are saying. And that's actually one of the things about Matt is he comes up with the stupidest possible interpretation of most ideas, and he's like, see, that's what they believe. And everyone who has any kind of knowledge about what the actual discussion is about is just like, what are you talking about, Matt?
Yeah, it just seems like I want this man to take a philosophy 101 class.
That's never going to happen.
Like I would fundraise for that. You know, I would is to get him to take a class that just where he's actually graded on. I don't even care if it changes his mind on anything. At this point, I will settle for the ability to make a coherent argument that's self-consistent and not absurd.
That would be nice, huh?
That would be great.
For 50 Argentinian pesos, Tiktaalik says, I'm a Balaamist. I believe in the talking donkey from the Bible. He promises us great fields to run free after death. Powell can't oppose it if it's biblical. All right. And then Bob Knob gives a $1 super chat with no message. If there was supposed to be a message, please do tag me in that. But otherwise, thank you very much, both of you, for the donations to help keep this channel, I was going to say on the air, but it's not really going through the air. Going through the little fiber optic cables that crisscross the earth, mostly under the ocean. Here we go.
Keeping the lights on.
Right. I mean, this light is, I guess, at least partially paid for by the channel. I point to a light that none of you can see. All right, here we go.
Because you won't find it. Yep. The Bible says God is a spirit.
It's true. Matt is right. You will not find the flying spaghetti monster in the Bible. I'll take a drink.
I'll take a drink. Yeah, absolutely.
Correct, Matt.
So when they say, oh, it's a spaghetti monster, look, if a spaghetti monster walked in here, I'd feel pretty good about that. I like spaghetti. It's tasty. Tastes good. It's good food.
I'm sad
I would love to believe in the spaghetti monster, but I know he doesn't exist. But I know the God who does exist and the God that they have to answer to someday.
I like how you won't actually, like, you could have a talk where Matt Powell tries to engage with the flying spaghetti monster. Like, that could be a thing. But that's not this talk. He's actually not going to engage with this critique. So I love it. It's like, I'm going to bring this thing up. I'm not going to actually address it. And then I'm going to move on. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
It's amazing to me how they define themselves. So let's talk about the definition of atheism. So atheists, what they define themselves as is somebody that lacks belief.
No, some atheists define themselves that way. There are other atheists.
So this is a thing that bothers me. I don't know if I notice it more because lots of guys try to do this to me. Thanks, sexism. But it's this guys that put themselves in this position and they like draw authority, and Matt's doing it here, of this like I have been out into the world and had experiences, right? I know how the atheists think. So I'm going to come back and tell you, like, I'm going to gift you with my knowledge that I've gathered
From
by
my traversing the
from
globe.
my traversing the globe, right? And it's an attitude that I find very common. Like, I find it very common for like evangelical men to try to like explain how the world works to me, and I'm like, honey boo child, like I'm a grown woman. And like, but he's doing that here, and I just want to, like I said, I'm sassy. I'm going to point out everything about Matt that I find obnoxious.
That's fair.
And his rhetoric is something that drives me nuts, and it's this like false sense of authority of like, I have knowledge that you all clearly don't, you know, because that's what he's apparently here to. He's here to educate us on what atheists believe.
And so far hasn't actually technically gotten it right.
No.
They say, well, we don't have any beliefs. Well, is that your belief that you don't have a belief?
All right, I am going to say, if you say you don't have a belief, it's a dumb thing to say.
That's also not what atheists say.
I've heard some of them say it.
That they don't believe.
That they don't have beliefs. I can name, I'm not going to, but I could name more than a few atheists who I've heard say the phrase, I don't have beliefs, I have data. Which is a nonsense statement.
That's a nonsense statement.
So,
okay, that's fair. That's...
In terms of like epistemology, which is what we're trying to, this is what the discussion is about, right? Mm-hmm. A belief is just anything that you think is true. Doesn't matter if it's a well-based belief, doesn't matter if it is in fact true. If you think anything in particular is true, you believe that thing. So if you think that there are 4 cups in your little cubby over above the tea maker or the coffee maker in your house, if you think, even if you saw it last time, you know there's 4 in there, that's still a belief. No matter how right or wrong you are, no matter how much evidence you have or how much you don't have. Similarly, if you believe in God, I don't care what your evidence is, you believe it. If you believe that the current scientific consensus on a matter is correct, you might know it, because knowledge is a subset of belief. Knowledge are those beliefs which are both true and justified. So you can believe something that's true for bad reasons, you don't know that. You can believe something that's true for good reasons, you do know that. You can think you know something and not. But it is... I'll just say this. Please never say, I don't have beliefs. It's a nonsense statement. Because you obviously do. And Matt is actually right. Do you believe you have no beliefs? That's actually a reasonable counter, Matt. So I'm actually going to take a drink for Matt getting a reasonable point in. Please don't say that.
Even if he's kind of being a jerk about it.
Yeah, I mean... The rule isn't if he gets it right, but he's a jerk, we don't. It's just if he gets it right. So now, I will also say that is not a thing that you can just attribute to atheists as a group. That is a thing that a certain segment of atheists who tend to have sort of the same taste in what kinds of pseudo philosophical works they consume. That's their kind of shtick. So
and I will say that there are actually Terry Pratchett in The Hogfather has like my favorite statement about like belief and the importance of having like believing in things. And it's I'm gonna butcher the quote, but he says something to the effect of you'll never find like an ounce of mercy or an atom of justice, but it is important that we believe that in these things. And when I will say that when I do science stuff, right, I try to be careful, especially if I'm talking about, say, like climate change, right? I try to be very careful with my language to indicate that like the reason that I believe that the earth is warming because of human behavior is because of the preponderance of evidence that supports that conclusion. Because So I try to be very clear and say, like, I'll try to like, oh, it isn't that I believe that, it's that I accept the preponderance of evidence.
Right. Well, belief is a very vague and general word. It literally just means I think this thing is true, whereas you can use other words to be more clear as to like your level of confidence and whether or not you have good reasons and whatnot.
Exactly. And I think belief is a very tricky word in English.
It's just it's too broad. Words get more useful the fewer cases you can use them in, ironically.
Agreed. Yeah.
So
no, you're the linguist, so
so basically,
I both agree on a personal level with you and also accept that you know more about this than I do.
By the way, I am not actually a linguist. I don't currently do any linguistics research or have any publications in linguistics literature. I am just an interested and well-read layman in the subject who has multiple textbooks on the subject, as well as a book, which by the way is really cool. It's called The World's Major Languages. Ooh. It has like reference grammars for like 30 different languages.
That sounds very cool.
It's very cool. All right, here we go.
Logic with me. The Bible says, they say, don't you believe in reason? Yeah, the Bible says, come, let us reason together, saith the Lord. Of course I believe in reason.
It does say that. I'll take a drink.
And it's amazing to me. The dictionary definition, they say, well, we don't have any beliefs. The dictionary definition of atheism is the belief that there is no God.
Okay, I'm going to take a drink for argument from dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
But I am also going to say, I do actually think that that's the most useful definition of atheism. Because like I said, words get more useful the fewer cases in which they apply. And there's also a thing where, okay, the state of mind that you can have regarding the claim that there is a God, there's three options, right? There is, I believe there is a God, and I do not believe there is no God. And by God, I'm just being very broad here. Gods, various things there, right? On the opposite side, you can say, I do not believe there is a God. I believe there are no gods, or there is no God. And then the third option is, I do not believe there is a God, and I do not believe there is no God.
Yeah.
It seems weird to me to lump two of those together and not have them separate. That doesn't mean you can't do it. And it doesn't mean I'm going to tell you have to not do it. But it makes the word, whichever word you use to lump both of them together, less useful. And it also means that if you don't let other people lump them a different way, you're special pleading. So if you want to say that, oh yeah, okay, anyone who just doesn't positively affirm that there is a God is an atheist, any theist can just as reasonably say anyone who doesn't positively affirm that there are no gods is a theist. It's at least as reasonable.
Yeah.
But, I mean, hey, go for it.
And I think it's the group of people that are so often left out of this debate are like pagan friends.
Oh, yeah.
Or anybody who is a polytheist.
Philosophically, they would be lumped under theists, but...
Theists, absolutely. Philosophically, they'd be lumped under theists. But, like, the point I'm trying to bring in here is that Matt here thinks that either you believe in his God and his perception of God, or you are an atheist, and that those are the only two positions that exist.
Yeah, it's very strange the degree to which he lumps all opposition into the same group and just kind of labels it as atheism. And I'm going to predict that what he's about to do here is that he's going to say that because the dictionary definition is that you do believe that there is no God, that people who say that they're atheists, but who don't say that they believe there is no God, they just don't believe that there is a God, therefore actually do believe that there is no God. I think he's just going to pretend that they have beliefs that they have stated that they themselves don't have, despite the fact that he has no grounds for saying that.
Right. Also, do you think that perhaps he's trying to cultivate an us versus them, in group versus out group
Oh,
mentality?
Matt would never do that. Are you kidding me? Never.
What? I'm referencing the bite model, if anybody in the chat didn't catch that. Okay.
Thanks, Owen.
Thanks, Owen.
We don't have any belief. Well, wait a minute. Every dictionary, here's another dictionary, the belief that God does not exist. The doctrine that there is no God. So when they try to...
isn't the same thing as belief.
It's not. It's a prescribed belief or a necessary belief to be in a particular group. And I guess you could say, if atheism is defined as, the belief that there is no God, then it technically, in order to be an atheist, you do have to believe that thing. So you guess you could call it doctrine, but it's weird. And I suspect that this is like the 1888 dictionary or something, right?
Yeah.
Because
also, I just want to point out that Matt here is quoting a source that is not the Bible. So is this definition of atheism in the Bible?
Yeah,
because if it's not, then by Matt's own standards and arguments, he shouldn't be using this position.
Yeah, and I don't think the word atheist or atheism appears in the Bible. But you know what? Anyone with a concordance, and of course it's a Greek word, so you're going to be checking the New Testament. So if you guys have a concordance or something and you can check on that, let me know, and I will pull up the text in Greek, and we can see if atheos is in there or
Love
atheos.
It. I love it. Because I'm also going to put down Matt for not being self-consistent.
I've noticed this weird thing. I tend to default to like 9th century Greek vowels, but then like 19th century Greek consonants, and I don't know why. And I feel like I should fix that and bring my consonants and vowels like into par with each other, like bring them both to the same time period. But I also feel like I use Greek so infrequently that I don't really care.
That is a normal problem to have. Yep.
Thanks, Maddie.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Imagine up this fake definition of what they did. And here's the thing.
Look, okay, I'm going to take a drink. People are allowed to self-define themselves how they want in regards to their positions on religion. You can't tell people that they're not allowed to call themselves atheist because your preferred definition doesn't fit what they believe or don't. That's not okay. You can have a discussion as to whether or not you think that definition is a good one. I don't think it is. But you can't tell them they are not allowed to use it. That's not how languages work. You're not the word police, Matt. Neither is the dictionary, for that matter.
Neither is the Bible.
There you go.
They define themselves by what they don't believe in. What if I said, well, I'm going to define myself as somebody that doesn't like to go fishing?
Well, if fishing were the nearly universal pastime for all humans for the past 6,000 years, and people consider people who didn't go fishing to be somewhat unusual and noteworthy, then I do actually think it would be reasonable for you to identify yourself as a non-fisher.
Yeah, I mean, so when he said that, the place my head immediately went was, why is it logically acceptable to define yourself by something that you do believe in, but not acceptable to define yourself as something you do not believe in?
Yeah,
why?
I think those are both perfectly valid.
Yeah, that seems perfectly valid to me.
The only reason I would say to not define yourself by not belief is if the not believing that something is not true is just the default position that everyone takes, right? Like, if very few people, I would imagine, think that I have like a pet unicorn. So you're not believing that fact or that idea wouldn't make you unusual, but you could still say that you're a non-unicorn believer. Like, that's true. It's just that I think the reason that atheism is a common label is because so many people believe the contrary.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the other thing is, like, you are certainly, if somebody decided that they were the number one defining characteristic of them was that they assert that you, Dapper Dinosaur, do not own a unicorn. Weird flex.
Right.
But
I'm not going to stop.
Okay, right? But like you certainly have the right to define yourself in that way. You know, like every individual has the right to kind of define themselves however they want. You know, that's.
Oh, we got a request for a like to view ratio. Only about 50% of the people currently watching at most have liked. So that means I'm waiting for a few more likes to come in, guys. Thank you very much, Thronimus, for reminding me.
Because there's pink energy going through the chat.
Careful.
The likes.
It's dangerous.
Doing the bad. Yep.
You know, Maddie, at this point, that means I'm going to have to, like, send you that episode or something.
You clearly need to.
Okay.
Guys, I was very into Power Rangers for about 2 years, in 95 and 96. And I haven't really watched it since then, so I'm trying. I think I'm falling really just smack on my face.
It's okay. You're only behind by about 25 seasons.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm caught up on Critical Role, so it can't be as many hours as that.
It's not. It's definitely not as many hours as Critical Role. Not even close. Nothing is close to Critical Role in terms of trying to catch up. I'm not caught up with Critical Role. Are you kidding me?
Can I recommend surgery and getting trapped inside your house for a month?
That might do it.
That is why I am caught up on Critical Role.
All right, that's fair.
What kind of sense does that make? I define myself as a Christian, and what that means is I believe in Jesus. They define themselves as, oh, well, I'm a non-believer in Jesus. What kind of...
No, it's not just non-believer in Jesus. That's what you would call a non-Christian. I'm going to take a drink for Matt being stupid. People who identify as atheists either identify with believing that God doesn't exist or not believing that he exists. And by God, they don't necessarily mean Jesus. They include all the other options for deities, that at least that they've heard of. And for another 50 Argentinian pesos, Tiktaalik says, if defining oneself as a non-believer depends on what the majority believes, finally the U.S. has non-evolutionists or Darwinians. That's true, yeah. So,
can we start referring to Matt as an Darwinian?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But it is true that actually a recent poll revealed that just over half of the U.S. population, for the first time since we've been keeping track, is now on board with not just common ancestry, but also common ancestry with humans and other non-human animals. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
we're
getting there.
We're still at an F, but I think we're up from an F- at this point.
Basically. Look, I'm just happy that now if I walk out on, random street USA, it's not the case that more than half of these people believe in some kind of pseudoscience nonsense. At least in regards to common ancestry.
But when you walk out on Main Street USA, do you run into the problem of people running away from you screaming because you are a dinosaur?
Well, yeah, but at least they know that I'm related to other things besides dinosaurs.
So as they run away, it's like, you shouldn't be here. Your species evolved into other animals.
That's not clear, actually. Ceratosaurus might have not had any, any actual direct descendants, and the other ceratosauroids are just, cousins.
Okay.
But
I'm trying.
It's okay. Here we go.
The definition is that? That's wild. Now, this isn't just like, when Richard Dawkins says, well, religion is just mental illness. It's it poisons the mind.
I'm going to go ahead and say that Richard Dawkins is extremely wrong. And this is something that you can ask trained psychologists and psychiatrists about and stuff. Religion is absolutely not a mental illness. It might be wrong, but believing something that is incorrect is not itself a mental illness. It is not correlated strongly with any pathological tendencies or other disorders. It doesn't meet any of the criteria for any kind of diagnosis that anyone has ever come up with for anything in psychology. It's just not a mental disorder. Please, if you're someone who says that, stop. You're making yourself look dumb and more like Matt Powell than you could if you just didn't say that. You can disagree strongly, vehemently with religion in general, or with specific religions. But please, don't pathologize it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if you're not don't pathologize things. And, like, if you are, like, not a doctor, right? Like, don't try to diagnose people.
Yeah, there's another thing.
That's irresponsible.
Yeah, don't.
Two, that, like, to bring some nuance that I'm not sure Matt Powell knows this word, right? But Richard Dawkins, based off of statements like that, I think he would better classify as an anti-theist, as opposed to which I guess is a subset of atheist. It's I do not believe in a God, and I also think that
religion is generally bad,
is harmful,
yeah,
and we would all be better without it.
Which is an entirely consistent position to take. Like, go for it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's self-consistent. I'm not a fan of that position because it's sort of like it to me that is policing personal beliefs of somebody else, you know, which is like, that seems like a waste of time and a silly thing to spend your time on, you know.
Yeah.
Because like when we're sitting here and we're critiquing Matt, not once have we brought up his personal beliefs.
Yeah, I don't
right?
care that Matt believes in Jesus or whatever. Like, that, not important to me.
Not important to me, and not important to this discussion. Not important to, like, we can point out when his preaching like does harm, you know, and point things out like that. But that's like, but I don't have a, like, his personal beliefs aren't part of the conversation. Like, what I care about is, like, is he spreading misinformation? Is he spreading dangerous information? Is he encouraging cult-like behavior?
Right.
You know, are he doing these things that we can, like, that are demonstrably bad, right? Or that we can just make fun of because the science is so bad. That is also fun for me.
I just want to point out that Zero Navarus is in the chat, and because of how I have the chroma key set up for the chat, his actually, their profile picture just doesn't show up. It's just completely just see-through, because it just somehow manages to check just inside like my settings for the chroma key, and no, I'm not going to change it just to give you your profile picture back.
You're lost in the time warp.
That means they're somewhere near where you are, I guess, because you're in the time warp.
I'm in the time warp, but listen, spatial dimensions don't mean much in the time warp.
I mean, I would say that, but then that one time that one alternate universe version of Zordon got killed, he ended up in his death like throes and meeting another alternate universe version of Zordon. Mm-hmm. So, you know, apparently they all hang out together, I guess, when they're dying.
Oh, so just so you know, so like when you're in the time warp, you're able to perceive all alternate versions of yourself. So your location is centered on self, right, as opposed to in relation to any point in space.
We had someone ask why you're being raptured. She's not being raptured. She's in a time warp and speaking to us through an energy tube, which is the only way she can reach our reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's amazing to me. Is that why 99% of school shootings are done by atheists?
My only response here is first to drink, and then... Yeah, citation needed, Matt. I don't think you have a citation for that.
Yeah. And then I would also... Certainly that's not true of all mass shootings.
Oh, it's definitely not true of mass shootings in general.
Right, so it's definitely not true of mass shootings in general. I don't know why it would necessarily be true of a subset of mass shootings.
Yeah, it's also not true for crime in general. Atheists are actually underrepresented among violent criminals as a whole. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I hesitate to attribute that solely to atheism. I think what actually ends up happening is atheism tends to correlate with relatively high levels of education in certain fields, and that also correlates strongly with lower criminal tendencies, that education, whether or not you're an atheist. So I think that actually what's probably happening is a combination of education, which then tends to lead towards higher economic status, which together both tend to lower criminal tendencies. I suspect that's actually what's happening, and it's not just directly, oh, people who don't believe in God are less likely to be violent. That tracks less easily, but I don't actually have statistics to back up my hypothesis either. I just think my hypothesis is a little bit more reasonable than just, oh, people who don't believe in God are just safer overall for that reason.
Right. There's a correlation does not imply causation.
Yeah. I think something else is causing both things.
Mm-hmm.
But yet Christians have their minds poisoned, yet Christians have never committed such an act?
No Christian has ever shot up a school? I'm just going to take a drink. No.
Also, again, if we expand that slightly to mass shootings, I can think of professing Christians that have committed mass shootings, right? Like, that's...
Oh, but how much you want to bet that Matt would just no true Christian us if we did that?
Probably. I mean, because I don't want to put words in his mouth, because I've never heard him explicitly say this, but I do know that I have heard him no true Christian other people, so I'm pretty sure he is of the opinion that if you are not of his particular brand of Baptist, right, then you are at a minimum sus. Yeah. And likely not really a Christian.
Young Earth creationists have a surprisingly narrow definition for what counts as Christian.
Yeah.
And it's even narrower than like those Christian groups that like to say that they're the one true church. Like, oh, Mothra, drink for Mothra.
Drink from Matra.
By the way, someone in the chat said that I should have replaced these sounds with like some Power Ranger sounds, like the Dino or the Dragon Zord or like Alpha 5. And like, I actually thought about that about 2 hours ago, but then I realized I don't actually want to have to go scrounge through like the App Store just to find a replacement ringtone for a couple notifications for just tonight. So sorry guys. No Dragon Zord today. But yeah, I'll keep going.
Okay.
Why is it that if you say that Christians have their minds poisoned, why is it then they turn around and say, oh, well, you know, you guys, religion's so dangerous to the public, yet atheists lead the world in suicide? They
It's going to have a citation on
I
that.
need a citation on that.
Yeah. Let's see what else they lead the
Your
world
like
in.
pause game on his faces are really like just
To be fair, he has a lot of weird faces.
yeah.
make the dumbest decisions possible. I'm sorry, suicide, I don't care where you are, I don't care who you are. Suicide's not a good idea, it's a sin.
I mean, I'll agree that it's not a good idea generally, but I'm actually not going to agree that it's always not a good idea. I actually think there's some pretty solid arguments for euthanasia and
Well, and I
assisted
also
suicide.
think that anytime we're going to talk about something like this, like if you're not starting that place from a position of compassion for the person going through something so terrible or in a mental state such that that seems like the best option, right? If you can't approach that with compassion, then like you need to never interact with someone going through something difficult.
Yeah.
You know, because you're only going to cause harm.
Well, maybe he is going to give more compassion. He has only started. And as we all know, Matt is a very, very compassionate individual. Right? Okay, maybe not.
God said not to do it. Now we know Saul did it, and we know Saul's with the Lord, but you know what? If you're a Christian here tonight and you're struggling with that or you have problems in your life, look to Jesus. Don't.
Okay,
Very important question. In the Bible, how do we know that Saul is with the Lord?
I don't know. I don't remember that being a point that the Bible has like explicit information on.
Right. So that's kind of my like if you're gonna say because of the Bible we know this to be true, like no. Cite be internally consistent. Cite that source.
Right. Where in the Bible did it say that?
Where in the Bible did it say that? Like two, actually, and one, how was Saul supposed to look to Jesus? Right? Saul, for anybody that didn't have 4 years of Bible in high school, Saul is the king of Israel in the Old Testament. He's the predecessor to King David. I don't actually remember the story of when Saul dies, so I'm just gonna have to completely I don't. That's gone out of my head. I don't remember it. And then the other, so how was Saul supposed to go to Jesus? And like, I don't know. Sorry, this is a bad take. This is gross. I hate it, and it's gross. I hate it, and it's gross. And this is not how you talk to people who are in a vulnerable place.
Yeah. What I am going to say is feel free to look to Jesus, but also call and get some professional medical help. And there is, in fact, a National Suicide Prevention Lifeline in the U.S. I'm going to put that in the chat. It is 800-273-8255. If you feel like you're ready to do something that you're not going to be able to take back in terms of suicide, give them a call. It's a toll-free number. And, yeah. So that's the appropriate thing to say when talking about this particular subject at some point, which I'm going to go ahead and guess that Matt's not going to give us that number.
I think so. And also, I'm going to say, if you're in a spot where you need to use that number, and then, come back next week and hang out and chat again.
Yes.
Right?
Make it a goal to be back in chat.
Yeah.
Because I do know people who have weekly things that ends up being the goal that helps them not end up doing something that they're going to be unable to take back because they have something as simple as a weekly goal can help a lot. So if this can be that, go for it. And also feel free to have spiritual counseling. I'm not can say don't
Yeah.
do that, but also call some professionals that specialize in this area.
One of the ways I like to say that is like you would go to spiritual counseling for like matters of religion. Like absolutely talk to your priest, but your priest is all, or your preacher or whoever that religious leader is, to like serve what you need from a religious standpoint, and then also see a mental health professional to serve what you need from a like brain standpoint. Right.
Right. And by the way, that number is now pinned. So now all of you can always see it. And anyone who watches this up to this point, at least, and past, will now be able to see that number there for the rest of the stream. So, yeah, we do take mental health pretty seriously here at the Dapper Dino channel. So, here we go.
Be overtaken with such a terrible thought. You know, and if a prophet in the Bible could commit and act like that, that tells me that anybody could commit that.
I mean, you know what? Fair enough. I actually do think that's a pretty reasonable take. You know, sure, it depends on you accepting the Bible, but like if you're going to take that, hey, some people who I look up to are capable of ending up in this situation, so it could happen to anyone, so watch out. I'm going to take a drink for Matt getting something right there. That is the best take he's had all night.
It's absolutely the best take he's had all night.
Anyone can wind up in a situation where they're feeling suicidal, and it's not something that you have to be ashamed of. It's something that you just need to get help with.
Yeah.
So
I am going to make fun of Matt.
Okay.
Now that we've given him credit. Saul is not a prophet.
Yeah. Maybe
Saul
Matt
is a
just
king.
maybe Matt just has a really like loose definition of prophet, and it's just like people who are in the Bible.
I don't know, but I enjoy when I get to flex on Matt in both science and
the Bible.
Also my knowledge of the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
My guy, if you're gonna say like, I believe in the Bible, and just like everything you think and believe in is supposed to be rooted in the Bible, I shouldn't know more than.
Yeah.
Don't let yourself get down to that point. And you know what? They lead the world in suicide, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and school shootings.
Okay, for all of those, it's just the same citation needed, buddy.
Citation needed.
Yeah.
I
took a drink for that because it's like I've never ever seen any statistics that would back that up, and I imagine that if there were a paper like that it would be plastered all over some of Matt's videos, but it's not anywhere that I've ever seen. But hey, you know what, Matt? I know you've seen this channel before. I know you watch every once in a while.
Yeah.
Send me the papers, man. I will issue a retraction if anyone can send me these papers, and I can actually find that they've got, you know, good methods and whatnot. If you send me a trash paper from like, I don't know, like the Creation Research Journal or whatever, like, okay, no. But if it's a real journal that actually publishes real work with a real peer review, and it backs up that assertion, full retraction. But until then, yeah, just I'm going to need a citation on that.
And yet Richard Dawkins wants me and everybody in this room to believe that religion is what poisons the mind. Yet the atheists do the most mind-poisoning, dumb things that you could possibly even do. It makes no sense. So they define themselves by what they don't believe in, number one. Let's talk about the Big Bang Theory. So obviously I believe in creation.
Big pivot, but hey, he hasn't said anything dumb yet. And he also said, I believe in creation, which is true. We're going to take a drink.
Yeah.
We're being very generous with what things are true that Matt's saying, because otherwise we would never use that drink trigger.
That's true. Sorry, I am looking up papers right now.
Nice. Alcohol abuse by religious affiliation?
Yeah.
Nice. I'll say this. If it ends up being Mormons are overrepresented, that's going to be perfect.
Okay.
They believe
here we go.
This was from Cambridge University. It's a 9-year study that followed over 1 million people.
Gee.
Yeah. Results in fully adjusted models analyzing. So of those 1 million people, there were slightly over 1,000 cases. And this is for suicide. Sorry.
Okay.
Roman Catholics, Protestants, and those professing no religion recorded similar risks. Yeah.
So it looks like it's not an atheist thing. It's just a human thing.
Yeah.
Well,
It does say the risk associated with conservative Christians was lower than that for Catholics, but that's, I don't know what that means.
that's actually not what I probably would have predicted, but
That's not what I would have predicted either.
Yeah, because the
but
Catholic
with-
Church makes a much bigger, explicitly big deal about suicide than most Protestant groups do.
That's true. That is, yeah. That is like if that's a yeah. Okay. Anywho.
Well, there we go.
Matt,
So we'll take a drink for
less
Matt
than
just being
5.
wrong.
Yeah, that took me less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, but you had to do a little bit of research, which I mean, Matt's not going to do that. Oh, hey, Beats of the Heart, Lyrics of the Soul. Welcome. I always like it when people who I recognize from my comments finally make it for a live stream. It's always fun.
I'm like, you said their name, Beats of the Heart, Rhythm of the Soul, and I just like, I don't know, I immediately started feeling that, like, feeling that beat.
Gotta dance.
Right? Like, just gotta, It's a lot of swaying.
And something that's known as evolution. Now, everybody's heard of evolution, right? And evolution basically teaches that it all started with an explosion.
Take a drink. That's the Big Bang.
That's a big bang. It's not
Let's
evolution,
pretend
my
for a
guy.
second that evolution is true.
Okay.
They say, well,
Okay.
nothing caused an explosion. What if I
No, it wasn't an explosion,
Nope.
and it wasn't necessarily caused by nothing. We're taking 2
And it
drinks.
has nothing to do with evolution.
It's a 3rd drink,
Yeah.
which actually means I am basically out of the drink that is not just watery nothing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little, approximately 3-minute intermission. I'm going to get myself a fresh drink, and everyone, please stick with us. We will be right back in just like 3-ish minutes.
Everybody hydrate. Bio break. Let's
Yes.
go. Hydrate or dihydrate.
Unfortunately, it is not a Power Rangers themed intermission. Sorry, guys. It's just my regular intermission. Bye.
Oh, Nani? Dare? Oh, Ojira desu ka? Hai, Gojira-san. Hai.
All right, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us through the break, those of you who did. But yeah. We are back. I have a fresh vodka Coke because the absurdly cheap rum that I wanted to get wasn't available, so I got absurdly cheap vodka instead. So, yay.
What you guys didn't see is I was eating a mango mochi ice cream off screen, and or off when we were on break, and I shoved the last bit into my mouth right as you went live.
Nice. Hey, careful with that. I don't know if you know, but every year, like hundreds of people in Japan choke to death on mochi during a particular holiday where that's their traditional snack, and the government actually issues warnings about how to properly eat mochi so you don't die.
Oh no.
Yeah, mochi is a dangerous snack. It's delicious, and I like it.
It's so good.
I know, man.
And it's like just the little mochi ice cream. It's one of those is just perfect on a hot day, you know?
Although I will say I do like the traditional red bean paste, and it's a little hard to find in the States, but there's an international market not too far from me that carries it. And
my local grocery store carries it.
Really? They have the red bean paste? That's nice. My local grocery store just has the ice cream filled ones.
Okay. Yeah, no, they're not frozen, and I like them a lot. It's like 97 degrees outside, and I know it's hotter where you are.
No, it's not. It's only 74.
So when it's super hot, like I like that red bean, but there is, when I go to the Korean market, I can get red bean ice cream mochi.
Ooh.
Which is really happy.
Oh, I don't know if I've ever had red bean mochi or red bean ice cream.
Well, if you
mochi.
ever make it out to Oklahoma, we'll go to the Korean market. It'll be great.
I'll have to put it on my itinerary for this year.
Listen, I don't know how you're getting to the Grand Canyon, but if you pass through Oklahoma City, let me know. I'll take y'all out.
It would be a little bit out of the way. It's a tiny detour.
You all live.
Nice.
I keep forgetting that y'all live in Arizona.
Yeah, I'm in Arizona. Going out of the state at all would be weird.
Maybe.
Okay.
Look, okay. We should get back to Matt.
Yeah,
I
Matt.
have a proper beer with me.
Nice.
I've got a left-hand milk stout.
All right.
I said nothing caused something over here to explode.
We already said that. We already drank for it.
You'd say, well, what caused the explosion? Was there some type of igniter? Was there some type of detonator that started this thing? If I turn around and said,
Dapper, he thinks this is also a combustion reaction.
Well, he also thinks the sun is a combustion reaction, so are we surprised?
Well, like the sun you can almost get to, right? If you think of like what science knowledge does your average like second or third grader have, right? What might they think the sun is if you just asked them? They're not going to say fusion, right? They're probably not going to say fusion. You might have an exceptionally bright 7-year-old in your life. I don't know your life. Anyway.
I actually do have some very bright kids, but I don't know if physics is what they're great at. Like my nephew is actually surprisingly good with dinosaurs.
Aw.
And I might have had a hand in that, but
well, that's good. But I mean, like how anyone who even has a cursory understanding of the Big Bang, anyone who has read more than the title Big Bang, understands that this is not referring to a bomb, right?
Right.
This isn't referring to a combustion reaction.
Don Giovanni says, fundamentally misunderstanding inflation for 500, Dapper. Yeah, basically. I'll take a drink for that, for the ridiculousness of Matt is like, oh no, it's an actual explosion, like a bomb.
That requires a detonator?
Yeah.
Honeyboo child.
You know, I really would like, not even necessarily a class. I would just like someone to explain to Matt how important it is that if you want to be taken seriously by your intellectual opponents or whatever, that when you report your idea of what they believe, that it be accurate. Because I've always said, in order to adequately oppose an idea, if you can't go into a debate and debate effectively in favor of the idea that you oppose, you don't understand it well enough to adequately attack it.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I'm gonna change my goal that I stated earlier, where I was like, let's start a GoFundMe, send Matt Powell to a philosophy class. Let's actually let's lower our expectations.
Okay.
Let's just try to send him to a rhetoric class. Right?
Okay.
We might be able to convince him on this. Can we pay? I would like to pay for you, Matt Powell, to take a class to learn how to make a good argument.
All right, Matt, let us know. Is this something you're up for? If it is, we can start up a GoFundMe for Matt Powell rhetoric class.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it will be free of charge. We'll find a place in Alabama. Like, it'll be close, right? Maybe we can even do it as an online course, so you can do it whenever you like, right? Yeah. It is so difficult for me to even engage with what he says because the way he structures an argument is so terrible, and he's so lacking in so much knowledge.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else we got.
Nothing caused it. You'd look at me like I was crazy.
Yes.
And by the way,
correct.
Technically, that's true. The best kind of correct.
People think that evolution is science. It didn't win in the science laboratory. It won in the courts because the American court system said, we got to push this thing in the schools so that people, and even J.D. Rockefeller said, I want to create a generation of people that can't think. He's like, I want to create a people that can't think.
And therefore we're going to teach evolution? No. The push to modernize the American science education actually came about as a result of the fact that, like, the USA was, like, losing the space race. Because you gotta remember, the first human in space and the first artificial satellite, both Soviet.
Mm-hmm.
And
first woman in space as well.
There you go. And
yeah. They had most firsts.
Was it, who was it? It was, I used to know her name, too. Now I can't remember it.
I'm very bad at remembering names and dates.
It was Valentina something. Her first name was Valentina, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Now, I'm only fairly confident because that's also the name of the hero female Kerbal from Kerbal Space Program, and she was named after that person. But
excellent. Also, to this point, porque no los dos, right? Like,
right?
Why, if something can have won in a court system and separately also have been vetted and shown to be true by the biology community, separately, if that case had gone the other way, right, that does not actually affect whether or not it is true, right? Like, and whether or not it's been vetted by biology community.
Tereshkova, thank you, Tesla Ranger. It was Valentina. Oh goodness, now I have to clear my throat. Give me a second, guys. All right, well, now that you guys get to not hear that because I'm muted, thankfully, now I can say Valentina Tereshkova. Sorry, Maddie, you had to.
Valentina is a great name.
Valentina is a great name.
Yeah.
So, hey, everybody out there, if you're looking for a girl's name because you're trying to name some tiny little human, consider it.
You could call her Tina for short. You could get so many nicknames out of that, and she will not be subjected to being like, Jessica number 5.
Yeah, that's always
Jessie
wrong.
S. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
actually, on my ship, one of our divisions in reactor department actually had 2 guys with the same first and last name and middle initial.
Wow.
Yeah. So they ended up just writing their names on like watch lists and whatever with a B or an S at the end. The B stood for big and the S stood for small because they were very different in size.
Excellent.
And like the only other option was to just write out their entire middle name, which there wasn't space for.
Right.
So it was just last name, B or S.
I have heard a rumor that it starts with a D, and it's the guy that tells you where you're going. Whose job it is to like write orders?
Like the. Oh yeah, now I don't know. We'll think about it while we listen a little bit more, Matt.
And excuse me, I'm having a hard time thinking tonight. And he says,
I'm gonna take a drink because I'm sure that's true.
I want to create a generation of workers instead. So people that can't think and that can only work. Blue collar. And there's
J.D. Rockefeller has nothing to do with whether or not evolution is true. I'm just going to put that out there.
That's also very true. Also, did we get Matt one step closer to socialism.
Maybe.
It's like, if you think that's bad, that's the good, that's a bad thing to want, right? So what's the alternative? Okay.
Nothing wrong with being a blue collar worker.
Also true. Drink.
Also true. Technically true, yeah.
No, that there's nothing wrong with that. And so
Detailer.
anyway, so let's just
That's right, detailer.
I
my
heard
goodness.
I heard a rumor that one of the ways the detailers one of the games they liked to play was like, especially when they would send like every kid with the last name Brown to the same boat. Right?
That doesn't actually shock me.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Anyway.
let's just enter into fantasy land here for a minute with the atheists, because that's what it is. It's a fantasy. Let's enter into fantasy land and let's just pretend that nothing caused the explosion.
I'm gonna drink again for it.
Okay.
Let's just pretend for a second. Well, what exploded? They say, well, before the Big Bang, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Actually, most people don't say that. Even Lawrence Krauss, who has a book called A Universe from Nothing, doesn't actually think that a philosophical nothing is what started the universe. So I'm going to take a drink for Matt, again, strawmanning.
And then just this infinitesimal amount of space just exploded and created time, space, and matter. There you go, boys and girls. So
He did use
nothing...
the word infinitesimal correctly.
I believe he did, actually.
He did.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, well done.
Do we take a drink for that?
I'm going to take a drink for it.
Okay. Good use of, technical vocabulary, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely.
causes nothing to explode.
Okay, this isn't a drink thing, but do we think that Matt could then use the concept of infinitesimals in terms of calculus? And I'm going to go ahead and say probably not.
Matt, if you're watching this, if you've gotten this far, please define infinitesimal for me. It's like, what does that mean to you?
Also, if I gave you a curve, could you take a derivative of that curve?
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
could
curious.
you do that?
Now, I don't need it to be exact. I mean, like, just if you could you roughly sketch a derivative of the curve?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not asking for epsilon delta proofs.
For $1.99 from Vandalia 1998, Power Rangers in Space, Please Get Off Earth. Power Rangers in Space was an interesting season. It's the season where the Ninja Turtles show up. There was a crossover episode. So, according to Power Rangers show canon, the Ninja Turtles are a part of that universe.
Okay, I am now convinced that the Ninja Turtles are, like, actually able to shift dimensions because YouTube advertised a movie to me that's like Batman meets the Ninja Turtles. And I'm not sure I want to live in a world where Batman and the Power Rangers exist in the same universe.
Well, it probably wasn't the same team of Ninja Turtles, though. Because this was a very specific Ninja Turtle team.
Okay.
From Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation, which was a one-season live-action Ninja Turtles production produced by Saban Brands, which is why it ended up in Power Rangers, and they added a fifth Ninja Turtle named Venus.
Because did they need a girl turtle?
Yes, and they also made the Ninja Turtles actually like brothers, and not just like different turtles that were only brothers because they were adopted by Splinter. They made it actually explicitly clear that no, they have the same parent, turtles. But Venus doesn't, which is why they could get away with flirty things and rivalries between the four male Ninja Turtles and Venus. There's a reason it only lasted one season.
Because female turtles definitely only exist so that male turtles can fight over them.
Right. Well, actually, IRL, that might actually describe several turtle species worth of mating practices.
I'm talking about gender politics.
But they're turtle... Never mind. Here we go.
Does that make any sense to anybody in here?
No!
It brings a whole new meaning to the verse where the Bible says,
anyone.
professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. And let me tell you something. If you think that I'm crazy, then why don't you just go join one of these little reason rallies and tell everybody how you can be a free thinker, and join these guys. But you know what? I'm going to stand on the truth. I'm sick of people not standing on the truth of the Word of God and compromising and saying...
Sick of it.
Yeah. Also, no points are being made right now. Just personal, angry Matt.
Angry.
well, what are they going to think of me if I don't believe in evolution? Look, who cares what they think?
I mean, I'll actually say, agree. If your reason for accepting evolution is because you think other people will like you more, you probably should have better reasons than that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but if your reason for getting vaccinated is because other people will like you more, like, I'm for that.
yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
When it comes to public health
Get
measures,
vaccinated.
I don't care why you do it. TikTok for 50 Argentinian pesos says, Teenage Mutant Tortoises. Please, one of Teenage Mutant Ninja Tortoises. Although, actually, I don't remember like how they were depicted in various origin stories. If they were like tortoises or what. But then again, tortoise isn't like a real like classification. It's just any terrestrially adapted like non-aquatic turtle. So it turns out that the things that we call tortoises come from like a wide range of turtle taxa that are not closely related. Yeah, they don't form like a clade. But here we go.
Just because the majority believes something doesn't mean it's true. Just because the majority...
True. I'll take a drink.
True.
The people in the days of old thought that the earth was flat, and that even people now, Christians, doesn't mean it's true.
Again, true. I'll take a drink.
It doesn't mean it's true, folks.
I wonder what Matt's justification would be for thinking the earth isn't flat, given that the kind of like biblical interpretation that he uses to reject evolution is the same kind of interpretation that flat earthers use to go with the earth is flat.
Yeah, so that's like, I could, from Matt's worldview, from his point of view, and like with his, like, you could make a very strong argument that the earth is flat, right?
Yeah.
If the only thing that is true is the King James Bible.
And a literal interpretation of it.
And a literal interpretation of it.
Yeah.
So, Matt, if you are willing to apply a little bit of common sense and a little bit of like, hey, we can in fact measure the fact that the earth is not flat, right? And adjust your beliefs, right, from scripture onto that, then that is a very good thing.
I agree. I would be perfectly willing to be a moderator in an interchange in which you tried to argue why the Bible, this is for Matt, in which you, Matt, tried to argue that the Bible does not teach the flat earth, while also arguing that it does teach the young earth and anti-evolutionism. I would be more than happy to host that, moderate it, whatever you want. In fact, if you want a cut of the super chats, I'll even give you that, Matt. I'll give you a cut of the super chats after YouTube's cut, because I don't know if you guys know this, but YouTube takes like 30% of these. And for $4.99, Vandali 1998 says, I always liked the Splinter was human first canon and became a rat man rather than rat first and became a man rat. It actually, I like that. I prefer that too because it makes more sense. Like, how did some random rat become a ninja master? It's like, no, he was a human ninja master who became a rat. Yeah, that makes more sense. So there you go. Which, by the way, there is, in Power Rangers, there's a human ninja who became a guinea pig.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Still a ninja?
Still a ninja, although he's an actual guinea pig, so he can't do much.
Okay.
But he was the mentor for the season Ninja Storm, which is one of the more comedic and lighthearted seasons. So if you're into like self-aware, self-referential stuff, Ninja Storm is a good season for you because there's a lot of fourth wall breaking and self-awareness of how silly this season is, and they're like, yeah, no, we know it's silly. Everyone knows. But anyway.
And evolution is the only theory that's protected by law. And let me ask you something. If you're...
What? I'm taking a drink.
I'm taking a drink because I don't even know what that means.
I think he means it's the only theory that, like, has laws saying that you have to teach it and not other things. But the thing is, if people were challenging the theory of gravity, it would get the same legal protections in schools. Yeah. It's just that it's one of the few theories that people bother challenging.
Well, and the point, though, is that if, and, there's no reason to think that this would happen, but if tomorrow a scientist discovered something new that was like, oh, everything we thought about evolution was wrong, we have to completely rethink everything, blah, 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 then those textbooks would be updated. It's not that evolution has to be taught, right? Or evolution as it was understood at a specific time has to be taught. It's that it is that you can't teach religion in a science class when it comes to where people came from.
Yeah. You can teach it in like a comparative religion course or a literature course or some history courses. It's going to have to probably be a religious history course, but yeah. And that's the thing, like, I've been taught outside of science classrooms lots of creation stories from various religions and stuff. Like, I'm aware of a whole bunch of them. And yeah, like, no one had a problem with that.
And you, like, Matt, at your church, you are free to teach anything you like about science, right? You can, at your religious institution, right, say that creation literally happened, and you have legal protection for that.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a very strange sentence, and like I don't even know what he means. Like, well, maybe he'll answer us and not get distracted in 30 seconds. And
well, I mean, we have only gone through 8 minutes of this,
but we've covered so many topics.
That's true. Because Matt likes to just
so many things.
Matt likes to he doesn't do transitions. He doesn't do like a flow of discussion. He just pivots.
Hey, Matt, here's the thing. This would probably help your public speaking. Have an outline, right? You don't have to have like reading off note cards. That's very boring. Don't do that. But have like, I want to talk about this, and then this, and then this, and then this.
Yeah.
Right? Just like have a little outline. You can tuck it in your Bible and have it on your lectern there up there with you.
I like that word.
It's a good word.
I want a lectern.
A lectern. Right?
Just because it's a cool thing to say. Yeah. Guys, I'm going to put a lectern on my Amazon wish list.
But you need one of the like the good solid wood church ones.
Oh, yeah.
They've got some you need
Do those come with like built-in religious symbols, or is that something you have to add after the fact?
Well, like his doesn't have religious symbols.
That's true.
Right,
all right, I guess it doesn't then.
Paneling.
Yeah, actually, I'm a little bit jealous of that lectern. You can actually tell this because recently, so this year for Darwin Day, I myself, Gutsy Gibbon, and Jackson Wheat gave a talk for the MIT Secular Society, and I'm
aware my world collided. It was very strange.
So if you look at the thumbnail that they have for their YouTube video of that, you can see the picture I supplied them of me, and I do in fact have a lectern. So my lectern envy is long-standing at this point. Let's keep going, though.
Okay.
Your theory has to be protected by law. What does that tell you about your theory? It can't undergo any scrutiny. They say, well, why are you speaking against it? Look, my tax dollars go to that stuff. I better have a say in it because I'm paying for it to begin with.
You do have a say. You can vote. However, what you can't do is overturn the Constitution.
Right. So here's why I have such a confused face. So it's protected by law, therefore it can't have scrutiny. We already talked about why that's
not
nonsense.
true. Yeah.
Right. That's not true.
People scrutinize evolution daily.
Daily, absolutely. And it certainly, our understanding of it continues to change over time and get better. Right. And as our understanding gets better, we will then update textbooks eventually. You know, it's a long time.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Is it ever?
Is it ever? And they will be updated. And like research into evolution, like the court case that he's referencing had nothing to do with that's the Snopes monkey trial, right? That's what we're talking about.
It might be that. It might also be Kitzmiller versus Dover. It could be both.
Okay, fair. It's probably both. But like those had to do with what is taught at public, like secondary education, right? For primary and secondary education institutions. It has nothing to do with what is researched, right? So that has nothing to do with that.
Or published,
right? It's not as if like a judge has to rubber stamp all papers, all evolution science papers, right? That's not real life. And then my last thought there was like, I guess he has to pay income tax.
Property tax is usually what ends up paying for schools in the United States, though. So if he's not paying property tax, he's probably not paying for schools.
Okay. Oh, I'm trying to think because like if he is, because obviously like churches and other like 501c and religious institutions don't pay taxes. I don't know off the top of my head how
they do pay payroll taxes, actually.
They pay payroll taxes. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. So if he was on the payroll, then that would be that, and then that would be property tax. But if he's living in a parsonage, then that wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't believe it would, because I don't think churches usually pay property taxes.
Not on yeah, they don't normally pay property taxes. So, but also like if that upsets you so much, my guy, then you can choose to not send your kids to the public school if you so desire. Like you are free to do that. And you're also free to vote for whoever you like. If you want to try to put in a policymaker who's going to, you know, if that's the hill you want to die on, right? Like we won't teach evolution in public schools. If that's your hill, like I disagree with you. I think that's a silly hill to die on, but you're still free to choose it, right? You can choose to die on that hill. And there are things that you can do to affect that, and this isn't one of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if he actually cared about where his tax dollars were being paid to, like his actions would be different, in my opinion.
Well, he's about to move to Dinosaur Adventureland, where I don't think he's going to have an income. So and he's not going to own the property. So pretty soon,
So
I
he won't
think
be paying taxes.
Matt's going to basically pay sales taxes at most.
And those don't go to support schools. So
I don't know. I know lotteries usually do, but I don't know about sales taxes.
Lotteries usually do sales tax. It's usually like if it's a sales tax, it was like the city, the municipality voted on a specific sales tax measure, but that has to be used, at least in Oklahoma, that can only be used for like, we are going to use this money to build a new football stadium, right? It's a specific project, and it can't be to salary or something like that.
Oh, I also know in a lot of states, marijuana taxes go to schools. Maybe Matt can pay some marijuana taxes. He'd probably be a much nicer guy. Matt, go pay some marijuana taxes.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Everybody in here has to pay for it. This is becoming the land of the slave here in America.
Oh my goodness, I'm taking a drink. I'm not even
They're not going to take away free speech from Christians. And you know what? If they
He says it's becoming the land of the slave, and I'm not going to talk about it because it's obvious to everyone in here how stupid that is, but I'm going to take a drink.
I'm going to take a drink.
just threw one of us in jail, if they threw Pastor Thompson in jail or myself in jail, you know what? We just grow that much more.
Why would they throw
you be
either?
thrown in jail for?
It certainly wouldn't be for preaching young earth creationism from the pulpit. I promise you the state does not care at all.
Don't care.
And yeah.
Nothing that you're doing here is illegal, my guy.
The
I don't
only
have to
thing
like it.
about this that might be illegal is that he might be violating like COVID-19 restrictions depending on when he gave this. That's the most. But the thing is, that's not content dependent. You're allowed to even under extremely strict, COVID-19 restrictions, you're allowed to do things like have a virtual service where, you have someone on a webcam or something like that broadcasting over the internet and saying all the same stuff. Yep. So here we go.
Because every single time Christians were persecuted in the Bible, they just grew that much more.
Or they died.
So let's pretend for a minute.
I think he means the Christian community as a whole. I don't think he means like individual Christians, and that's me being a bit charitable. But
see, I think he did mean individual Christians because of his previous statement. That was, if they threw me in jail, I would just grow that much more.
Oh, maybe they did in the afterlife then.
There
you go.
I don't know, my guy. Sometimes they just died.
But then they grew in the afterlife. Maybe. I actually don't know what his specific ideas about the afterlife are, because it actually varies more than most people think in terms of Christianity.
It varies dramatically.
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy. So for 50 Argentinian pesos, Tiktaalik says, did Matt Powell just go Hydra on his congregation?
I think he did.
Can't strike us down, he just grew 2 new heads.
But like,
Hail Hydra, Matt.
There are places in the world where people are like violently persecuted for their faith, and even like Christianity in other places in the world.
Oh yeah.
Right. This like
worldwide
persecution complex that has you all hot and bothered. Like
worldwide, Christianity is one of the most persecuted religions. It's just that it's not any of the places that Matt's ever going to go to.
Right, it's just not here. So like that is so disrespectful, right? This persecution complex is so disrespectful to people who profess the same faith that you do, who actually suffer for it.
Yeah. How about this? Why don't you go and hang out for a little bit in Egypt, where conflicts between Christians and Muslims are legally barred from actually using the regular government courts, and you have to go to a reconciliation council that's run by religiously conservative Muslims. How about that?
Yeah.
And where churches are routinely firebombed, and Christian girls are routinely kidnapped, raped, and forcibly converted. Let spend some time in Egypt, Matt.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Matt. Like, if you, the reason that we make these videos about you is because the ministry you have chosen, right? You have chosen to stand up and just profess ignorance, right? Yeah. I would not care one iota about how you understood the Big Bang Theory to be if what you were choosing to do with your life was make a positive difference in the world, right? Was one of these things. You don't even have to go to Egypt, right? If you were like, yeah, I'm real big on young earth creationism, but what my ministry is we're seeking to end homelessness in Alabama.
Yeah, go for it.
Like, go for it. And that sounds great. But and I couldn't fault those actions, right? Like, we would get to where I am with most people, which is like, cool. So we disagree on this, that, and the other theologically, but where we can find some common ground is like making a positive difference in people's lives, right? Like alleviating genuine human suffering.
I don't think Matt really cares about genuine human suffering.
And I don't either. And that's yeah.
It's disturbing.
It is. It's really disturbing to me.
All right, well, let's hear what else he's got.
Okay.
Let's go back to Fantasyland. Nothing caused nothing to explode. We have planets that are in a perfect orbit, and Stephen Hawking...
What is a perfect orbit? Yeah, I'm going to take a drink, because that doesn't mean anything.
Mm-mm.
I think
also, if you want to return to Fantasyland with us, come watch Guns, Magic, and Steel. Dapper and I play D&D.
Absolutely, it's on Cheshire Vic's channel.
Every other week.
We're trying to do it every other week. We're
trying to do it every other week.
It probably won't happen for another couple weeks, right?
Right, because I'm out of town like 2 weeks in a row, and we got off schedule because school started, and it's a thing. But we will come back.
Yeah.
Because TD Lane licked a mimic.
Yes, he did. Oh, man.
And that's what I've been dealing with all day.
Well, at least... now, I'm not going to metagame it and look it up offhand, but I'm pretty sure mimics are a little bit easier to handle than shambling mounds, and there's all of us together, so I think we'll be okay. And we just finished a long rest.
You did just finish.
So I expect this to go reasonably well, unless there are a whole bunch of other mimics in the room. Which I just gave my DM ideas. Damn it.
Listen, you're not going to find out unless you lick everything.
I plan on licking nothing.
He even said, and I quote, he said that if the expansion rate would have changed out of one part out of 100,000 million, the universe wouldn't exist.
This is not understanding statistics, and it bothers me.
Are we going to take a drink for it, for being stupid?
Yes, we're going to take a drink, and then I'm going to rant. So, there's some quote, and I don't care what the number is, right? But it's like, if something about the Big Bang had been different by this like fraction of a whatever, right? Then the universe as we know it could not exist, and it's just incredibly small. But what Matt says is that means there's that the chance of our universe existing is a 1 in like a billionth of a billionth chance, right? Which the assumption he makes there that's really drives me nuts is that just because if this factor had been different, he's making the assumption that all possible outcomes of that factor are equally likely.
Right.
Right. Not everything is a roll of a dice, right? Like not everything is subject to random processes. So one, that's a big glaring assumption that is not it's not like just based off of the quote that he says, it doesn't follow, right? And then two, the like logic. So that's the math problem with his argument. The logic problem with his argument is this is a puddle observing that the hole was perfectly made for it. Right.
Life adapts to its environment, not the other way around.
Exactly. Of course, the universe is perfect for us. We exist in this universe. If the universe were different, we would be different or not here.
Ironically, if the universe were fundamentally ill-suited to humans existing, but they did anyway, I would actually think of that as stronger evidence of the miraculous. Like, if humans actually ended up finding themselves, like, on Jupiter, where, like, the pressure is crushing and there's no oxygen, despite the fact that our cells use it all the time, and, like, we're floating around on, like, liquid hydrogen, and it was an obviously impossible thing for us to exist, it would be hard to deny that there was a supernatural agency involved there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, it's a pet peeve of mine whenever young Earth creationists specifically use the fine-tuning argument, because the fine-tuning argument doesn't make sense unless the universe is ancient. If God just was like, poof, the universe now exists in its current mechanical configuration, then the expansion rate of the universe doesn't matter, because God just created it recently in its current state, and it doesn't have to have a previous history that explains how it got to this point. So Matt is arguing an argument that really only works for old Earth creationism, which is another thing that really bugs me when young Earth creationists try to use the fine-tuning argument.
So this argument is flawed mathematically, logically, and theologically. Glad we had this talk.
Yeah, the Venerable Bee put something in the chat that Maddie and I already discussed, and I'm not going to go too far into it, for the reason that if I do, I might have to shut the stream down, because I don't know if I can fully address that currently. So
okay, I can't read chat, so I don't know what's happening, but I support you.
Thanks.
Everything would be out of place. So who here thinks that 1 out of 100,000 million chances could happen by chance?
I mean, me, because any chance can happen by chance, because that's how chance works. I was going to take a drink, but also, it probably didn't have to. And also, that's an argument from an old Earth perspective, or an old universe perspective, so it's stupid in almost every way you can imagine.
And like he's making a bad assumption that all outcomes are equally likely. 2, rare things happen all the time.
Right. Well, one thing I like to say is, like, okay, take a deck of cards, right? Shuffle it. Now, over the course of a day, just shuffle it once, cut the deck and pull out a card. And write that down. Do that 100 times. Okay? So, what you now have is a number that's 1 in 52, 2, or actually, you know what, don't even take one card. Just deal them out, right? So now you have 52 factorial to the 100th power as a chance of you getting that deal. I don't even know what that number would be, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to type it in.
Well, it's a bigger number than what Matt just said.
Right. Let's see. Where's my to the 100th? Okay. Let's see what Google has to say. Oh, it doesn't even bother to try and calculate it. It's just like, nope. Okay.
Absolutely not. That's way too big.
But if you do that, you will get a sequence of cards. Unlikely things happen of necessity. Your entire existence is unlikely. Because think about this. Like, in any fertilization event, there are usually millions of spermatozoa, and you're the result of countless previous fertilization events going down through your ancestry on both family sides, all through. You still exist.
Yeah, so, like,
the system has to take a state.
Yes. Probability is helpful for prediction, right? It answers the question, what is the chance that if I deal that deck of cards, I'll
get this specific result.
To get this specific result. But it's not very helpful in hindsight.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Because you will get a result.
Right.
And that result will have a vanishingly small chance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so yeah, 52 factorial to the 100th power is a big number. So big that Google's just like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about proteins. The
Okay,
simplest
sure.
protein in the world. That coming into being by chance, if you put all the elements together, is 10 to the 164th power.
Okay, so the simplest, first of all, okay, I'm going to take a drink. Goodness.
Yeah, so much.
So first, the simplest currently existing protein is not necessarily the simplest protein that can exist. So we get a problem there. Second, we know that proteins, and look, this is something I actually linked to Young Earth Creations before. We know that proteins can have biological function after being assembled from randomly generated nucleotides. Now, it's a very small proportion of random nucleotide sequences that can result in functional proteins, but it's not zero. So we know that a non-zero proportion of randomly assembled proteins has some biological function. And once you have it, you can select for that function in terms of evolution, right? And the other thing is, like we said, unlikely things occur. So yes,
I also
if you
want to know
go
where you
ahead.
got that number from.
Oh, I don't even care. I don't care what the number is.
That's fair.
It could be like 1 in however many, 1 times 10 to the however many zeros he wants to put there. The fact is we know that a non-zero proportion of randomly assembled proteins have function, and it's a number that's high enough that we can actually get it to happen in laboratory settings. So it's not actually very difficult to get randomly assembled proteins to have function, and we don't have to specify, oh, we need this particular protein. Yes, if you find out the, chances of this one protein coming about by chance, then sure, it's going to be astronomically high. But if you're actually saying, oh, hey, what about the chances of any protein that has function that promotes the survival or reproduction of whatever made it? Well, suddenly we have a whole lot more options to choose from. So that's one of the things about this is that we're always, it's the Texas Sharpshooter fallacy, right? The fact that life stumbled upon some random but useful proteins doesn't mean that the chances of that were equal to it stumbling upon those particular proteins. And you're also choosing proteins that probably aren't representative of the first functional proteins. So it's basically just dumb the whole way down. Did we take a drink for it yet? I'm going to take another drink. I don't even care.
I'll join you.
Nice. Also, my weather forecast has said rain to stop for the past 2 hours.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's like, guys, if it's not going to stop for the next hour, maybe don't put rain to stop, because I believe that eventually, yes, the rain will stop. But
So, I'll give you a little hint or a little secret about forecasts. They're generally forecasting for so like if your forecast says there's a 50% chance of rain today, right? What that means is that they're predicting that for a specific area of which you are a part, 50% of that area will receive rain.
Oh.
So I'm guessing that stoppage is working in reverse, right? So I'm guessing if you look inside this same area that's being forecasted for, like the rain is stopping, if that makes sense.
So what you're saying is weather forecasting is useless and meteorologists are all dummies.
So tomorrow night, if you want to join me on my channel, we'll be having a live stream talking about why weather forecasts are actually, in fact, incredibly accurate, especially for extreme events, and the nonsense that was the Twitter battle between Tulane University and Weather Twitter.
All right, that actually does sound like fun, even though I know almost nothing about it.
Dan's gonna help me out and be my
Nice.
straight man, because I need somebody to be like, Maddie, why does that make you so angry? And I'm like, give me a minute, I need to Hulk out on this.
Let me count the ways.
Let me count the ways.
All right, now that we've had our obligatory Shakespeare reference, we're going to keep going with some more Matt.
Who here thinks that 10 to the 164th power could happen by chance?
Me.
Trillions of times.
It happens all the time.
There we go.
There you go. Yep. It's just that you don't start with the the sharpshooter fallacy, where you're pretending that the actual results were the intended results.
It's over, right? Because there's trillions of proteins. Isn't that wild? They say, well,
There's trillions of I'm taking a drink. Matt, the fact that there are trillions of proteins means that there are trillions, at least, of options that could be arrived at. Not just the one. By saying that, you're negating part of the force of this argument that you're trying to make.
Great.
Oh, man. Matt. Oh.
Funny. Again, just a, like, rhetoric class.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, here we go.
There's still a chance. There's still a chance that evolution could be true. I'm going to lean towards the 10 to
We're still not at evolution. Let's take a drink.
the 164th power and the crazy wild chances. Well, Stephen Hawking said, and I quote, he said, we're a mathematical impossibility. Impossible.
I don't care what Stephen Hawking said about biology.
Right.
Not a biologist. Stephen Hawking's opinion on biology is just as important as my opinion on, like, who to pick for your fantasy football team.
Well, and also, without knowing where that quote comes from, couldn't you imagine that that's from a, like, like, I love Neil deGrasse Tyson's quote about, like, we're all stardust, right? Because it's
Sagan
poetic.
said it first.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
But no, both of them are right about that.
Yeah, but it's I like it because it's poetic, right? And so if you're gonna quote Stephen, not every single thing Stephen Hawking said is supposed to be a scientific fact.
Right? He was allowed to make statements that weren't technically correct.
Exactly. Like, I mean, he's allowed to have a favorite color and that not be a scientific fact. You know?
Also, Star Trek trivia. The only person to ever play themselves on Star Trek? Stephen Hawking.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He's in the Next Generation as a holodeck simulation of himself, where Data is playing poker with famous scientists. And so he's there with Einstein, Stephen Hawking, and I think Newton. And Stephen Hawking is playing himself.
About that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then Hawking and Newton, like, talk. They, like, all start talking physics. It's great.
Because of course they do.
I know. I've actually been rewatching some Deep Space Nine. I've been binging that.
Ooh, good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm watching Lower Decks, which is one of the only new Trek shows that I actually enjoy. Yeah. I really like it.
You and I might need to have a watch party, like, not online, just the two of us. We might need to watch that together.
I'm down, but we should discuss that after we go off air.
Okay, fine, but that's more fun than Matt, so...
Oh, obviously. Yeah. Here we go.
Do you know what the definition of impossible is? A miracle.
What?
So atheists...
What?
I'm taking a drink.
Am I taking crazy? What? Gosh!
How about things that couldn't possibly happen? You know, as the word implies. But
my guy. So, okay, first of all, if what you want to say is that the definition of a miracle is something impossible happening, okay, but that's...
Doesn't that mean that there are no miracles?
Oh, I guess that is self-contradictory.
Yeah. Well, at least if you believe in miracles, it is. Because if the words miracle and impossible essentially have the same definition, then I would say that miracles are therefore impossible, and therefore they do not happen. So anything that happens isn't a miracle. So if you believe in any miracles, you're just incoherent.
Yeah. Also, your pause game, Matt's crazy eyes in this are a little intense.
It's not even intentional. I just think that Matt is he's just amazing for pausing on.
Honeyboo child.
JG points out that Stephen Hawking did all of his own stunts. It's true.
Well, technically correct.
Hey, it's the best kind of correct.
The best kind of correct.
All right, here we go.
Literally believe in miracles. I was talking to one time. He goes, well, you know, I can't believe the Bible because your God made an animal talk. And I said, well, aren't we all animals according to evolution?
Ooh, we can drink for conversations that never happened.
Oh, yeah. But also I will say, I don't think that's a very good objection to Christianity. It's like, the Bible has some talking animals. I'm like, You should have a better objection.
In the grammatical structure of his sentence, he said, this sentence started with, I was talking to one time, but the one would have referenced a miracle, not a person.
That I might have to double check like the diagram, which I'm probably not going to do. But yeah, that does seem like a reasonable parse of that sentence.
I choose to believe that. That's what I choose to believe.
Fair
I
enough.
choose to believe that in this conversation that didn't happen, Matt was not talking to a person. He was in fact talking to a like personified miracle,
Okay.
and that miracle told him that it could not believe in the Bible because of talking animals.
Maybe he was
which
talking
honestly,
to anomalously atheist Jesus.
Love it. Yeah, love it. Love it. That's like there's another Terry Pratchett reference that I love. So in Discworld, right, the deities like exist. You can go talk to them. It's very much like D&D, right?
Except for Eberron.
It's true, except for Eberron.
Eberron is a special boy.
But so one of my favorite characters, she's a witch. Her name's Granny Weatherwax, and she's like interacting with a deity and says to their face that she doesn't believe in them. And it makes me very happy. It was an intentional power move.
Nice.
And that's what I feel like this personified miracle in this conversation that didn't happen was doing, right? Like, now I want to be friends with that personified miracle.
Okay.
Because they're just trolling Matt.
All right, well, we are almost at the 2-hour point. In fact, we're going to be hitting it in just a little bit. So I think we're going to actually wrap up. So,
okay.
First, I want to say, I'm not sure if we're going to continue the Power Rangers theme for future Matt with Maddie episodes. But if you do want us to, let me know. Because, I mean, I do have this set already here, and I think it's a fun set, and I could... I mean, look, like I said, there's 27 seasons worth of, like, puns and whatnot that I can try to come up with.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know. For some fundraising goal, you could probably convince me to watch some Power Rangers.
All right, well, we'll think about that. At some fundraising goal, maybe we can force Maddie to watch... to make it painful, I could be like, you have to watch Samurai. No, I wouldn't do that to you. I would not make you watch. I wouldn't make anyone watch Power Ranger Samurai. No, I would have you watch a good season, like like Time Force or RPM. Those.
I'd probably be down for that one that you said was like self-aware and funny.
Oh yeah, Ninja Storm.
Ninja Storm.
I almost said Ninja Steel, which is a different season. Look, it's based on a Japanese show. There's a fair few ninja-themed seasons in it.
Ninja Storm, Ninja Steel, Ninja other.
All right. Well,
thing.
that brings to mind. So we did actually recently get a fundraising goal for me to have some proto feathers. So right now I did put up the polls, and it's looking like bright display feathers are what's winning. So
that's what I voted for.
Well, there you go. I do know some people who voted for iridescent black. I don't know too many people who voted for cryptic earth tones, which was the other option. And I did restrict it to feather options that I thought were realistic, because we got a lot of all three of those in terms of actual real world feathers as well as fossil feathers. That's neither here nor there, but that is coming. Hopefully, by the end of the week or so, I will have the video in which I have feathers done, and I will post some previews, images of me with the feathers. I do have a video I have to edit for a client, because I recently got a recurring editing gig. So, yep, I'm now Klingon Pop Warriors, at least provisional video editor for her Twitch streams. Let's see. Vandalia1998 says, worst are Operation Overdrive and the 2010 revamp. The 2010 revamp, not great, but I'm going to have to go ahead and say that Samurai gives Operation Overdrive a run for its money. And of course, we're talking which season of Power Rangers is the worst. Because there have been some pretty bad seasons. I'm not going to pretend. Anyway.
Listen, I'm a big bad movie fan.
Well, then maybe you should watch Operation Overdrive. It's terrible. But, okay, so I have to get that in at some point in the next week or so, or, well, the next few days, actually. But then, yeah, I have some more videos to record, and basically the next video I record is going to be the one that I use with feathers. Now, unfortunately, that means it's going to be quite a ways down the road, but there's going to be, I believe the next video I'm going to release is going to be one of my compilation videos where I title it, The Movie, and it's a previous series that I did of my scripted videos, all strung together one after another, so you can just watch the whole thing and get my whole take on whatever I'm responding to. So that should be this week, and I do know that there was a request for more Spirit Science on Saturdays. I haven't done that in a few weeks, mostly because, for a few reasons, mostly to avoid some burnout, I've actually taken it a little bit easy for the last week and a half-ish. And as a result, that means that Saturday has kind of fallen away. But I'm ramping back up in terms of, like, going full throttle on channel stuff, going back up to, like, 8 to 12 hours a day worth of channel stuff, which is what I normally do, because I'm trying to make this work. So yeah, expect that to end up being hopefully less than a month. I'm almost done with all the art needed for another Speculative Evolution video, so that should be in the next week or two. And that's basically all I have to say for channel stuff. Maddie, what do you have going on?
Oh my goodness. So many things. One, we did have an episode of Guns, Magic, and Steel last night. And then tomorrow night I will be live. It'll be an hour later than my usual time, so that Dan can co-host with me. So that'll be 8 Central. And I'm gonna go through weather Twitter drama about Hurricane Ida and Tulane University.
Nice.
Some scientists get real sassy. And then on Thursday, Weather 101 video will be out. It'll be talking about conditional and convective instability. Sunday's Weather 101 video is... I'm going out of town this weekend, so I actually have these all filmed, edited, transcribed, and ready to release. So I'm very proud of myself. So Sundays is wind shear, talking about wind shear. And then be looking for hopefully the first in a series of videos on the IPCC report. That script is written. I just need to record and edit, and that's a much more time-intensive, longer form video. Because the IPCC report is 4,000 pages, if you were wondering.
That's a fair few pages.
Yeah. Anyway, but I've got a video that's kind of an overview and main take home from that report. I finished that script today, so that should be coming out in the next week or so. So yeah, that'll be good. I have a very important question for you, Deborah, about if you go with the bright display feathers. Does that mean that is that the equivalent? Are bright display feathers the equivalent of dinosaur tender?
Basically, yes.
Okay. Does that mean there is a chance of no judgment, a lady dinosaur or a non-lady dinosaur joining?
Probably not, just because I would have to redo redo a lot of texture work on my avatar to make that happen. That is just guys, if you want a female Ceratosaurus, there's gonna have to be a separate fundraising goal, and it's gonna be pretty high because my avatar took me 3 or 4 months to make, and the texturing was not an insignificant part of that, and that's the part I would have to redo. So,
but what if your girlfriend goes to a different school?
Well, then she wouldn't be in the video.
This is lore now.
Dapper Dino's girlfriend goes to another school. Dapper Dino isn't even in school. That still works, though. You know what? That's fine. It still works.
Okay, that's all I've got. I'm done making terrible jokes.
All right. And I will point out that someone did say that Super Megaforce is also terrible. Look, the whole Megaforce was bad. Super Megaforce was terrible. The only reason anyone should ever watch Super Megaforce is if you watched every other season of Power Rangers up to that point and you feel like you need to go in order. Otherwise, just watch the legendary battle and be done with it. That's my position there. But watch the the DVD release version, where they decide that, oh hey, remember Lightspeed Rescue? Why don't we use some of those costumes too? Because it never happened anywhere else in the entire season, which annoys me because I think Lightspeed Rescue was an underrated season. Which I get it. Very few people here have any idea what we're talking about, Maddie included. But thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate everyone who came in here, everyone who's is a supporter and super chatted, including Tiktaalik, Bob Knob, and Vandalia 1998. And I'm about to give you guys my my Patreon screen because remember, the only reason I've been able to do this channel with 2 to 3 videos a week for over a year is because I have support. So if you want to see the channel keep going, do consider joining the channel or becoming a patron, or even just super chat every once in a while. So, because that is what keeps the channel going. Because otherwise, the channel will either have to end or scale dramatically back eventually. So, I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Remember that number that you see at as the pinned comment is in fact the National Suicide Hotline for the United States. And if you feel like you need to use that number, please do use it. But with that, we are out of here. I just want to take a second to thank my channel members and patrons, especially those pledging $20 and above. Bob Knob, Benthoven, Ian Chen, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Bede, Patrick Dennis, and Res Instance. My channel members and patrons help make this channel possible, and without their support, this channel really wouldn't exist. If you would like to help support the channel as a member or patron, there are links in the description to both join the channel as well as join the Patreon. Patrons and members get mentioned in these credit scenes, as well as getting early access to my scripted videos, and if you pledge $10 or above, you can also get access to various 3D assets that I create for Blender, both for use in the channel, as well as just general giveaways to my supporters to help in any Blender projects they might have. If a monthly or annual pledge isn't for you, then there is also a merch store linked to the description, and if none of that's right for you, please just like and subscribe because every like and subscription really helps the video out. Thank you.